let's just start by turning the waist. The traditional way to start. And then just standing. So, Tai Chi, we're trying to stop standing on the legs and start to get into the legs, which is easier said than done. So the reason they say mind in the down chair, one of the reasons is because when you're sunk, you feel as though you're looking at the world from here, like your eyes are down here. So when we're used to looking from here, then we're on top of the legs looking down, generally. You know, if you're walking in the street and you're looking at the pavement. So what we want is to get into the legs and feel as though we're actually here. Yeah, so we pass through the legs, connect with the ground, rather than come up with the legs and connect to the world. So it's just a different vantage, if you like. Okay, so one of the things in order to sink, we have to be able to open the legs. Yeah? So that basically just means the knees going out like this in order to, it's what Nitzan used to call hugging the ground. So imagine if you're climbing like a mountain, not rock climbing, but, you know, and it's steep enough and loose enough for you to have to be on all fours. It's just a bit too dangerous to walk standing upright. So you'd actually be scurrying. Yeah? So your legs and your arms would be behaving very similarly. So this is the feeling that we want in Tai Chi. That my legs have just gone out and are actually grabbing the ground in big handfuls. So let's try this as an exercise. So just making a circle and just going down. And just imagine you're picking up, you know, something off the floor. So Nitzan used to do this with a medicine ball. Remember those heavy medicine balls we used to play with in gym class at school? So you're bending down, but you're squatting down in order to get the knees to go out. And then you're lifting this ball and then pushing it above your head. Yes, if you can get a medicine ball, then it's a great exercise. So we have to get into the legs so we can reach the ground and then pick up this heavy object. Okay, now how do you get it up here? Because it's heavy. Something in you slips underneath it in order to get it above your head. Yeah, so just use the visualization to just get into it and then so here, the weight of this ball actually drives you down into your legs. So at no point can you come up because the weight is actually pulling you down. Yeah, so it's okay to lean forwards, but just try to stay as upright as you can. So one of the secrets of getting into the legs is not to look down. If you can get into the habit of just looking slightly upwards. So it's as though you're already down there, looking up. So you're just lifting something from the floor, sending it to the heavens, and then just reaching down for another one. Yeah, so gradually the legs warm up, the hips open, and you can actually get down quite easily. And one more. And then just to here. That's good. And now just going back to our little bounce. And so when we say relax in Tai Chi, we mean two things really. We mean sink, so just release the gravity, let gravity pull you down. But also expand, have a feeling that you're expanding out from your center. So you're just letting go all those internal tensions that are holding you together, just releasing, and you're just expanding. So if you were very successful with that, then you would fall onto the floor dead and just become a mass of liquid, because everything would just let go. So in Tai Chi, when we do something, when we concentrate on something, we're concentrating on it in order to find the opposite, to let the opposite reveal itself, unconceal itself. So here I'm just expanding. I feel my center, but I just expand out. And then it's like in a different dimension, I notice everything pulling towards my center. So by expanding, what comes to my attention is the force inside me that is making me cohere and hold together, which is what we call spirit. It's the same way when we're sinking. It's often when you're pushing up that you actually feel gravity the most strongest, because you're going against it. So here we're just relaxing. So what's difficult about it is that it's two moods, because the mood of the relaxation is very just letting go and opening up, and that's what people misinterpret that as spiritual. It's not, it's just nice. And the opposite, the contraction, is this sense of you coming back to this lonely, dark center. So that's got a feeling of almost meanness. Yeah? So when we're standing like this is what we call central equilibrium. So part of me is expanding out, and another part of me is pulling in. Now that part that's pulling in will be there anyway, whether I feel it or not. But we want to just try and feel the dantian for what it is, which is like a center which holds me together. So it's not just a gravitational center with relation to the earth, it's a gravitational center with relation to me. So it's actually pulling every part of me towards it. And we locate it by relaxing away from it. So just again, just sink. Yeah. So this thing of the expansion and the contraction, that's me. That's what's happening inside me, if you like. Now we also want to keep half a mind on how the world is operating upon me. So the world is actually just trying to pull me down. So I have to release to that. So just let gravity just pull you, just relax and relax and relax, and then you'll feel the opposite. So you'll feel the ground thrusting up through your legs and up your spine to the top of your head and down your arms. So what's difficult about it is that it's a continuous thing. It's a process. So you can't just sink and relax and then that's it. You're always sinking, you're always relaxing. So there are these gerunds, these active nouns. So I'm expanding, I'm contracting, I'm concealing, I'm unconcealing. There's all these continuous, it's like what they call the continuous present. Yeah. So we have to perceive the present not just as the state now, but as something that's actually rolling and taking me with it, if I can keep my mind on it. Okay, and now let's just tip. Imagine you're a boy pretending he's an aeroplane. Yeah, so you're just banking here, so you're just tipping. You're trying to keep the line through your arms. And again, you're trying to get through the legs. So this is the important part here, the fold. Remember those yoga postures where you go down, you touch the floor with your hand. So it's a bit like that, but with bent legs. Just tipping over, folding it, trying to bend the spine. So in yoga, they try their best to keep the spine straight and get everything coming from the hip. So we just want to be a bit softer than that. So here, so you can get down. Imagine you've got to pick something up off the floor. We're just trying to be happy and capable close to the ground. And we, in a sense, you just have to fall in love with the ground. So this is why meditation is so useful, because when you're sitting cross-legged on a cushion on the floor, then your dantian is very close to the ground. And that affects your energy, not just your mind. So here we want to feel the dantian, like the dantian just wants to be on the ground. then just ease it. So slowly just bring it back. And then just bring the arms round into ward off, sort of. But again, this feeling of expanding away. Yeah, so when we're standing like this, with the arms out to the side, you've got energy streaming, cross energy. So from this leg streaming into this hand, from this leg streaming into this hand. So the feeling is that these real flows of energy emanating from my hands, and it's that flow coming from the foot, from the ground beneath the foot, that's actually keeping the arm up. So it's not so much the muscles in the shoulder, it's more the flow. Now, when I bring the arms round to the front a little bit, I want to keep that feeling of them actually sending a stream out. So now the energy is going forwards through my hands. So just feel that. It's like you're just flowing forwards from the hands. And then just feel the opposite flow in the opposite direction that's actually coming down the middle. Yeah? So as soon as you bring your hands from here to here, you introduce a suction of energy towards you. So this space, your ward-off space, becomes like a negative space in that it's constantly emptying through you and wanting to fill from the front. So let's just try that a few times. So just out to the side. So just getting the flow down the arms from the opposite leg. So you're just pumping, pumping. Yeah. So all the time, just feeling yourself being pressured down. It's the pressure down that actually forces the energy to come up through you. Yeah. So the energy always needs a little bit of a kick up the bum because it's a bit lazy. And it's not the energy's fault, it's our spirit's fault. Okay, now just bring the arms forwards round in a round way. So keep this open here, just like ward off. And now just feel that suction through the middle. So part of you is flowing down the arms with the energy, and another part of you has a softness, a yielding, accepting softness for what's coming through the middle into your heart. Yeah, so the yielding is a consequence of me coming forwards. It's the other side of the coin, if you like, that I generate by doing the opposite. If I start thinking in terms of all this pulling in and everything, then it's manipulative. I'm using the yield to manipulate the other person. I just want to create the energetic space of yielding. And I do that by actually emanating forwards. And just relaxing into that and just allowing the other, the opposite, the equilibrating force manifest for me. Yeah, so this is like the essence of Taoism, really. To do one thing, you actually do the other. You do the opposite. And then the thing that you want to happen happens naturally and softly and beautifully, untainted by your greedy mind. So just feel gravity pulling down, hands on you, like someone's got their hands on your shoulders behind you. They're like a good friend. They're just helping you. So as soon as someone touches you, you just find you relax. It's quite amazing. So just imagine those hands on your shoulder, helping you. They don't have to push, all they have to do is just be there. Okay, now what we want to do now is just move from foot to foot and just imagine that you're taking someone with you. So there's someone standing in front of you in exactly the same posture, but your hands are underneath their arms and you're just moving them from leg to leg. So you need to lift them a little bit to bring them out of their root, and then you move across, turning a little bit, and then you deposit them into their other foot. So there's a slight lift at the beginning, moving across and deposit. All the time, keeping this flowing. Yes, as soon as we start shift the mind somewhere else, we tend to lose what we were working on before. So this is the problem. So I lift, I move across, and I lower. Yeah, so just like you have to be really, really careful, tender. Yeah. Okay, now just drop the hand. So it's this leg, this hand. Yeah. So just imagine you're just lifting that person and taking them across into this leg. And then here, just lift. And then here, ooh. Yeah, so what makes it energetic rather than forceful? Yeah, because this could either be force that you're using or energy, and the difference is very subtle. And so what makes it energy really is that you're doing it in your imagination before they actually start moving. It's a bit like in sports, you know, where they say, see in your mind's eye, see yourself doing the jump or whatever, and then just go for it. Or like a musician, hear the note in your mind's ear before you play it, and then it will be in tune. So it's the same thing here. So I want to lift that person, but with a stream of energy. So I want energy to come up and out and make an arc across here. So if I just lift like this, then I'm basically using force. I'm using the strength of my leg to lift something from my hand and then just move it across. Yeah. So let's just try. So this is forceful, but it's soft. Yeah, it's like a soft force. So what is it that makes it become energetic? Is the fact that it becomes internal. Yeah. So if I'm using force, then I'm basically touching the person here, and I'm just using my leg to lift the person and move them across and then dump them into this leg. So I'm just using my leg, literally, if you like. Now, to be energetic, what I have to do is use the leg in an opposite way. Yeah. So if you imagine the person is here, my hand is here. So if I want to get energy coming out of this hand in that direction, I actually have to sink in the opposite direction. So I need to be going into the leg in this direction and down if I want the energy to come in this direction and up. Yeah. So what I do, I sink down and then the energy is coming out, and then you can just follow it, because you only need the energy to manifest at the very beginning. And then you just follow them So most of your moving is just following the response of the other person to your energy. But to get the energy to come out, I have to sink here. Yeah. So I move my body in the opposite to how I want the energy to come out. It's like a spring, loading a spring. In order to load the spring, I push down into it in order to get the spring to start issuing its energy in the opposite direction. So my legs are just exactly like that. So I sink down and underneath, and then they start moving, and then I can follow them. Yeah. So 1. So there's this feeling that you're softly slipping under the person all the time. 4. It's a bit like there's a door in front of you and you're trying to slip under it. Yeah, so I'm getting down under that person. Yeah, so you really are uprooting them, but with your whole body, with your legs, not so much your hand. I'm crouching so low that I'm getting underneath that person. So here, this is making me move in that direction, and then you can then come up. So basically what this means is that when you have your hands on another person and you're wanting something to happen to them, you have to be prepared for the opposite to happen to your own body. So I'm pushing in this direction with the hand, but I'm slipping here. So rather than just making myself hard and just hoiking this heavy object, I'm subtly slipping and melting down into my leg, and a flow of energy comes up. And it may not move them. You know, if they're a bit heavy and lumpy, then it won't move them, but that's not your fault. Wow. Okay. So now let's just come up. Okay. And now let's just turn west. Again, just really relaxing the legs. Yeah, so when the legs are close together, it's harder to get into them. So it's easier on the legs in a way because they don't hurt so much. But it's actually more difficult to actually get energy to manifest. So you really have to relax yourself through the legs rather than sink through them because you can't physically drop down as far. So again, just feel as though your eyes are down in the down chin looking up. Okay. Okay. Now just imagine there's a bar. There's just a bar running across the room in front of you, and it doesn't move. So what we want to do is just push up on the bar and use that to push ourselves down into the legs. And then bring your hands on top of the bar and push down and come up with the legs. So we're using the strength of the arms to drive us up and down. Another way to practice is if you have another person with you, is just get them to do this for you. So they've just got their hands here and they're pulling you down, pushing you up. So what we have to try and get a feeling for is working the legs not from the ego. So just letting them accommodate this soft, gentle movement rather than feeling as though they're actually doing it. So they're just following. They're just, tensing a little bit to take up the space and then bending elastically underneath the pressure. So here I'm pulling myself down and I'm pushing myself up. I'm pushing up with the hands, that is making me go down. And then I'm pushing down with the hands, and that's making me come up. Yes, this is actually very important. This is the beginning, really, of getting energy out of the legs. It's just trying to get them behaving a little bit naturally rather than being dictated to all the time by a mind that wants to go from A to B. So one, and push. Pull yourself down, that's it. And then push yourself up. And just feel it developing, feel it relaxing all around here. And just feel the legs just becoming a little bit soft. They obviously don't become soft, otherwise you'd fall down. But they just become spongy or elastic. So they don't freeze you in position. So they can allow movement in any direction. And now let's have a slightly wider stance. And now just, again, imagine there's the bar here. And what I'm doing, I'm just using the bar to move myself from leg to leg. So I just hold it here and I pull the bar in this direction. So I'm trying to do this with my arm, but I don't let my arm move. So it ends up pulling me into the leg. And then I pull the bar in this direction, and that moves me across into the other leg. And then I pull the hand this way, but don't let it move. And so it's just like a mime exercise. Imagine you're learning mime. So they do all sorts of things like this. And they manage to get it to look so realistic that you're convinced they are actually holding something, because their body moves exactly the way it would if they were. So I'm pulling myself towards the hand. And then here I'm pushing myself away from the hand. Pull. And push. you can see that this leg is behaving exactly the same as this hand. And in fact, obviously, it's not, this hand has got nothing to do with it, really, because it's not holding on to anything. So it's all actually happening in this leg. It's just difficult to use the legs in any way other than me bossing them around. To try and get them to soften and actually become supple is that you have to trick them. You have to do it with your own hands. So the hands are dexterous and they have lots of capability for fineness and refinement that the legs don't have. So we're just trying to make the legs much more like the arms and the feet much more like the hands. So the hands can grip. This is what made human beings take off as a species. But so can the feet. So when I'm pulling here, my toes are doing exactly the same as my fingers. They're gripping. They're trying to clutch a footful of the ground. So, yeah, so you can either fill a side by pulling, or you can fill a side by pushing. So you fill the opposite side by pushing, and you fill the same side by pulling. Okay, now let's try with this hand. So again, just imagine there's a stick or a bar here, and you just pull yourself across. That's it, that's it. And then you just push. Ooh. And really try and feel that it, I mean, if you had a bar, then it's a great exercise. And you just use the tabletop. Because it really does get the legs to sort of soften. And you sort of use the legs in a meditative way, which is something we never normally do. So I pull. And I push. Pull. And push. And then the development of this exercise is just feeling the full and empty in the body. So feel this leg filling up and consequently this side emptying. So the more clear you can get that distinction, the sharper your energy will actually be if you try and apply it. And the quicker you will be on your feet, the more fleet. Yeah? So this side is now full, this side is empty. Yeah? And then I push myself across and slowly this side is filling, but this side is emptying. So just feel the side that's emptying, because that tends to be the side we sort of ignore, because you're so concerned with where your weight is. And so it should feel almost like there's a clear split down your body, one half black, one half white, yin and yang. It's very clearly separated. And for that, you really need to just release here, so that this can almost feel like it's being jettisoned, like you're just dropping the leg off. So here and here, these just release. And I want to feel the release that actually makes me flop into the leg is exactly the same as the release that opens these two joints. So as I relax into this side of my body, as I flop and put all of my weight in that side of the body, something flies off from this side of the body. Yeah, so I have to just be suspicious. Yeah? So even though I'm with this, I'm open to what's happening the other side. And I pull. So in a sense, the pulling So pulling with the empty side is potentially more energetic than pushing with the full side. And it's certainly more conducive to spirit. The trouble is with fullness is that it's heavy, and it will always take a moment to mobilize. Emptiness is just pure energy, so it's already moving. So to get this moving, it's very quick, but to get this moving, I have to somehow hoik with my leg. So we just want to feel that, feel the heaviness giving you the emptiness and the lightness. And it doesn't really work the other way around. So you can't work on the lightness to get to the heaviness. You have to work with the heaviness to get to the lightness. And that's all because our mind is just gets things wrong. So the mind, as soon as you focus on something with the mind, normally you start getting it wrong. So you have to trick yourself and focus the mind on the thing you're not really interested in, so that the thing you are interested in can just do its own thing. Wow. Wow. Okay, and now just back to here. So again, let's just go from here. So just feeling the energy streaming up from the body. And just feel that that streaming up, the rising energy, is purely by virtue of the fact that you're being pressed down into the spring of your legs. And now just bringing it forwards again to feel that negative space, to feel the suction in your heart. Your heart is just aching for the world to come into it. And that's only because you are continuing to issue down your arms. And then, so this is what in Tai Chi they call hollow chest. So this feeling that you've got almost like a concave satellite dish here that is just collecting messages from outside. So here you're quite brazen. This is the warrior of yoga with the chest proud. And then as you bring the arms round with the hands still issuing the energy, this just drops a little. The heart connects to the dantian and you just feel a rush coming in. So you can imagine how strong that would be if you'd actually connected to someone. So if you connect to something and then withdraw, then you suck the thing in. So this is how one's withdrawal, one's concealment actually brings the world into you. So you're not hiding from the world. It's just a trick to actually make a better connection. And then again here, so just 1, 2. So I'm just here, I'm just reversing it if you like. I'm getting this strong. So let's just try a couple of these just to. Yeah. So this is just the opposite circuit of the one we were doing when we were reaching down to the ground to pick up that ball. Yeah, so this is the ground coming up, splitting at my heart and going into my arms. But what we want to feel is how this really opens. I really arch my back, and then this comes underneath that to support it. That's it. Yeah, so this exercise, it seems to be anti-Tai Chi, but of course there's no anti-Tai Chi because Tai Chi is all about balance. So this just balances this, the one that we had here, yeah, or this, yeah. And so you need to be able to oscillate between extremes rather than be stuck in the middle. So that's what single-weightedness is about. It's not really about going from one leg to the other. It's just having some familiarity with pure yin, pure yang, so that you can actually bring them into some sort of moving, oscillating harmony without them actually grabbing hold of each other and just becoming grey. So here. That's it. And just get underneath it. Just feel how your legs have to get underneath it to give it support. If you wanted any continuity in this fountain that is coming up through your heart and out into the world, then you have to get underneath it. Otherwise, it will only come out when you do this. We want to just be able to stand like this, and for this fountain to be endless. Yeah? So now just, yeah, so something is coming up. So there's this sense of your shoulder rolling over something in order to get the energy to come into the arm. Yeah. So this is what's different. This is why we need the exercise we've just done. And then again, just bringing the arms around, but keep that feeling of streaming from the hands. And then the spine has to go backwards just to balance that. And then you just feel, woof, there's a real blast coming in here. That's it, that's great. Okay, and now, just maybe bring the feet up. Let's just turn again, just to sort of ease it off a bit. Yeah. So the longer you practice, within a session, the more sort of wobbly the legs should get. It's like, when they're really, really tired and they feel a little bit like rubber underneath you. So that's the state we want to get to. So a lot of the Chinese masters, John told me, they'd have a whole range of strength, like someone like Bruce Lee. So he would start his training in the morning by running for 3/4 of an hour, and he would gradually increase speed, so that by the time he finished, he was sprinting. And then he would get straight onto the exercise bike and do another 3/4 of an hour there. And then that was just warm up, and then he'd go into the gym to do his Kung Fu. But of course, by that point, his legs were so wobbly and shaky that it had to be energetic. Yeah. He couldn't use force because it just blasted all the force out of him. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons we sink like we do and keep these stationary postures, is just to blast the legs and get them shaking. That's the way we would like them to be all the time. It's like waking them up. It's a difficult concept, waking up the legs. Yeah? That they just really need to become very wobbly, like they're about to collapse at any moment. So you're just working at the threshold of your own strength. So this is what we mean by humility. Yeah? So it's a complete lack of arrogance. Yeah? You're just enough to stop yourself from collapsing. So you're at that tender edge, that tender threshold between success and failure. Okay, now let's just try. So now just the same idea as of moving your body with the arm, but now we want to get a turn. So just feel as though something is here, firm, and you just push it with your arm, and that moves your hip back. and then you just pull it with your arm, and that moves your hip forwards. Yeah. So you're actually making a turn, but it's not really. What it is you're just moving your hip backwards and forwards. So I move it back by pushing the hand in this direction against an imaginary resistance. So I push my hand back, and the hip moves here. And then I pull myself to get the hip to move back. Yeah? So this is more difficult than the others for some reason. So I'm pushing with the hand, and then I'm pulling. Yeah. So if we can't do these simple operations of letting the body move in the opposite direction as you suspect it's going to go, then you can't get energy. So this is like the beginning of getting energy to issue. So I pull. Push, this is going back. And then this is coming forwards by pulling with my hand. That's the feeling I want. I pull. Ooh. Great fun in my classes trying to teach this. It's amazing how people find it so difficult. So pull. Yeah. So the hand and the hip are moving in opposite directions. Yeah, so if you wanted to push someone with this hand, what would make it energetic rather than forceful is the fact that your push actually made you go the opposite direction. If I just do this and just hoink my hip, then it's basically just force. You're just using you're pushing the person with your hip, but actually sinking down and just getting the hip to go in the opposite direction will actually get energy to come out of your hand. It's like a little trick. So here, so I'm pushing forwards, but I'm actually retreating. And it's a weird feeling. It's a beautiful feeling. So here I'm sinking down, I'm melting. You know, just think of John, he used to do this all the time. This is how he used to live. He couldn't do it any other way. I mean, for John, like the prospect of using force was like the ugliest thing imaginable. And so it was all energy. It was all him just melting physically away from the object he was wanting to affect in order to get his energy to come towards it. Yeah. So I'm pulling. I'm pushing. And it's the same if you're pulling the person. If I'm pulling the person, so normally you think in terms of this, getting the whole side of your body to do the same thing. But what I want to do is pull and actually get myself moving towards them. It just takes a while to get the mind around it. And now let's try this one. So again, so push and pull. So just think in terms of moving your hip, but with an action from the hand. So I pull to get my hip to move towards my hand, and then I push to push my hip away from the hand. It's actually difficult when there's nothing that you're holding on to. If you're holding on to something here, it's actually a lot easier. So we do it with each other. You know, I'll be standing there rigid, and they'll just be using my rigidity to move their own body. And they find it very difficult because they think in terms of they're having to move me. But of course you're not, you're moving yourself. So as soon as they can get that into their mind, oh, I'm not trying to move him, I'm just using him to move myself, then it starts to work. There's something Wilfred Bion, the psychoanalyst, used to say to his patients. He'd give them some interpretation, and then they'd say, I don't understand. And he says, well, I don't expect you to. Don't listen. Don't try and understand my words. Just listen to your own emotional response to my words. And if you think they're very, very different, so which one is true? So one is external and one is internal. So your emotional interiority is what we're really interested in, not the external world. So here you're doing something to yourself in order to get energy to come out and affect the other person, have an emotional effect upon them. And this is the thing with energy, when someone applies energy to you, it makes you cry. Tears come into your eyes, it's just such a gift. Yeah. And so it affects your emotions, it doesn't just affect your body. So here we're moving the hips just backwards and forwards, but really what that basically means is that we're turning. But turning is really just the hips pistoning backwards and forwards. Wow. So imagine me as a teacher, I'm standing there relatively rigid and they're just doing this to me. Yeah, and so they're doing the exercise, but I'm getting all the energy. It's great. It's really difficult, this one, because you just naturally do the opposite. We're just trying to just adjust what our natural response is. We're so manipulative. We're so ugly as creatures. No subtlety. You are. Okay. Now let's just draw. So just drawing the belly in and then out. And just try and, just very gentle. And just try and feel like you're just flexing this part, the very lower back. You're just flexing that very slightly. It's one of the only exercises that will actually flex that area. So you're just rounding this out here, and then when you go back out, you're going into the curve the opposite way, like this. But you don't need to exaggerate it. And again, just notice how it makes you feel. So there's an enormous emotional difference between this and this. So you have to have it in you to switch from one to the other, the blink of an eye, authentically, properly, without faking it. So this again is just full and empty, just going from one to the other, making them very clear. So clearly distinguished full and empty. So we really have to, what is this? How does it make me feel? This is just pure outward. How does this make me feel? This is pure inward. And so it's a little bit sort of almost gloomy, lonely. So this is spirit. Spirit pulls you in to the center so that it can explode out. So it gathers everything in. So everything is gathered in so that it can return. Yeah, so when the energy actually comes out here, it's coming out because you've actually pulled in so firmly. You've loaded the spring so well that is all you have to do is just let go and release the spring, release the bow, and the arrow will fly out. And then once it's left the bow, you've got no influence over it. You've just got to trust that it will actually do what it's meant to do. And what it's meant to do has got nothing to do with you. This is the beauty of it. Wow. So here I'm just loading, squeezing. So here so the martial artist would breathe in here to load the pressure even more, and then this would be the out breath. So here, so they're just trying to intensify this machine so that the energy that comes out is as strong as possible. So they reverse the breathing. So we don't need to worry about that. And then just arms out. Again, so as you settle here, just bounce subtly. Again, just imagine someone's hands on your shoulders, just intensifying, putting a bit of pressure on. And then what that will do is start the energy squeezing up your body and out of the arms. And then what that will do is start the energy coming in here, from in front of you. So simply by virtue that you're sinking, you've now got an exchange going on in this direction. This is what John used to say. Basically, Tai Chi is the study of how you transform vertical energy into horizontal energy. So this is what the human body does well. Just imagine you were standing like this for like half an hour. And it starts to really intensify. You know, after a while, you start shaking, and then you start grumbling, and then you start screaming, and then it would just break through. It would break through into dimensions of energy that you don't normally have access to because our energy is so weak nowadays. And just bring it in. And down. Just feel your mind becoming firmer, becoming meaner, more focused, more detached. Okay.